I am in Renton and at Renton City Hall, actually, where I'm about to talk to now retired Seahawk Doug Baldwin about his plans to help the city build a new community center for the young people and the families of a community that really needs it. All right, we are with Seahawks great Doug Baldwin, who has taken his post NFL career to a new level by helping the community that helped you find some success. So let me ask you firstly, because you, as I understand it, you lived in Renton. What is it you saw that you felt there was a need?
So when I first got to Renton, undrafted free agent, so nobody knew who I was. I was immediately accepted as just a member of the community. When I went to this old teriyaki shop, they asked me where I'm from because they hadn't seen me, and I said I just moved to the area, and they welcomed me with open arms. They treated me like family. It was just a very, um, I don't know, it was just a very connecting feeling, and it was. Renton has always had a special place in my heart since that moment.
What was missing from here that now you feel the need to step up and say, hey, Renton needs some help?
Yeah, so what I noticed was there was just so the teriyaki spot. I keep going back to the teriyaki spot, but it was essentially at the time it was like the hub of the city of this community, and there was always people there, whether they were eating or just hanging out in the restaurant doing homework or whatever. And I felt like there was, why are you guys all here? What are other things that you can do in the city? And the kids that I spoke to, the teenagers there, they didn't have a community center. They didn't really have a place to call their own that was, made and designed for them. And so, thinking of ways that I could bring that to life because it reminded me so much of my experience back home in Florida, the community center that I grew up in. Um, I wanted to bring that to life here and replicate that emotion that I felt growing up of being able to be a kid and just explore and be creative and all the things that come with having a safe place to call your own. And so now we're here having this conversation.
And I'm glad you brought up Florida because I was gonna ask you about that too. And you say you had a place there. What was it about that place that made it a good place for everybody to go?
Yeah. So aside from the physical location and the programming and the services that were provided there, the most important element that I can speak to was just that the people there genuinely cared about me and the other participants as human beings, right? They saw us, they had authentic relationships with us, and it was just an environment again where I felt safe and I felt loved and I felt like I could be myself, I could be a kid, um, and explore who I was in the world and be creative. Um, and so, apart from all the wonderful services and programs that are going to be provided at this community center, it's more so going to be about when people walk through these doors, they're going to be recognized, they're going to be seen and loved as human beings and treated as such. And so, it, eliciting that emotion from people and providing that as an experience is, you know, what connected Pensacola, Florida to this project, but also is connecting me to this project because it was so impactful in my life.
So, in addition to the people giving you that attention and that caring, you mentioned some of the programs and things. What were a couple that stood out to you that were impactful in terms of the program?
Yeah, so it was, I shouldn't say specific programming because specific programming is, it's essentially sometimes it's the same. Uh, we had mentors, we had tutors. The benefit of this community center is that we have wonderful partners, including a partner like HealthPoint that's going to provide health services, dental services, and a number of medical services. And then the various partners that we are partnering with for other programs and other services. But more so than anything, um, I keep coming back to it because to me, it's just more important than the actual program outline or the facility, the physical location itself. It's about the people, and the people that are going to be working at this facility, the people that are going to be providing the services and these programs, whatever they may be, are people who are going to look at individuals as human beings. They're going to treat them like human beings. And I can't express that enough because, you could go to a program and or facility and be part of a program and not really be seen and be taken care of. And that's not going to be the case here. So, you know, the example I can give you is when I was growing up, when I would bring my report card to some of the tutors at the community center, if my grades weren't as great, they didn't make me feel like a failure, right? They challenged me, but they didn't make me feel like a failure. They encouraged me and brought something out of me that I didn't even know I had. And that's the whole premise of this facility, is to recognize people that they are way more capable than sometimes than what they believe themselves to be, and bringing that out of them so that they can realize their full potential and realize that they are loved, seen, and heard, and respected as human beings.
And I definitely want to get into more of what this project is going to bring to the community, but I want to go back to the teriyaki place now because I want to find if the chicken's good too. But it's interesting to me, and I was unaware that that was sort of the hangout for local teenagers, and it makes me wonder what was happening with the ones that weren't hanging out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of the hole you're trying to fill, right? I mean, what do you believe goes on with these kids when they don't have a place where they're all getting together doing their homework or something like that?
That's a fantastic question, and a lot of that thought process went into this facility. And I think the city had, prior to me coming to the city with this project, they had done an extensive research and trying to understand the community and the community's needs. And to your point, when you don't have a place, when the community and kids don't have a place that they can call their own, that's designed and created and ran for them, where they can feel safe and feel safe to explore and be creative. I keep saying the same things, but that's why it's so important. So that kids that didn't have the teriyaki spot to go in and do homework and uh, you know don't have these resources, they will now have a resource. They will have a place to come, uh, and for lack of a better term, just be safe. Be healthier. Get away from some of the struggles that are just inherent in some of these communities that are underserved and don't have the resources available to them. Um, you kind of poked at a little emotional spot for me, because it was the program back home, the facility back home. It was so important to a number of kids, people that I was close to, who, if they didn't have this facility, there's a number of paths they would have went down that were unhealthy. People that I'm still close to this day, who have made it out of circumstances that had a number of obstacles and barriers against them, but they still made it out because of this facility, partly, but also because of the people in this facility, the programs and the services that were offered. It created a community that was so focused on the health and well-being of not only the adults, but more importantly the kids. It created an environment where I don't know, it's hard to articulate. Um, it created another pathway to healthier life. And I think a lot of the kids in this area who have been missing that, are craving that, and don't even know that they're craving that until they're going to step through these doors and realize that somebody's looking at them uh, as just a normal human being trying to survive on this planet, and loving them because of that.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because I keep thinking about my own experiences within my own family, where I've had people who were involved with gangs and gang violence, and people who were in prison in my family more than out. And I appreciate seeing, from a personal level, seeing a new facility being created like this, because it's going to prevent some of that.
Yeah.
It's going to keep these kids from going down, like you said, the wrong path and finding trouble.
Yeah. More so than anything, I don't want to get into this big argument or debate about crime and the criminal justice system, because I could go there for days. But I think a lot of the rhetoric around these types of conversations, and specifically the topic about how to service the community in a number of ways, Obviously, there's a homeless population in Seattle that everybody's concerned about, right? Um, it's I get emotional about these things.
Hey,
It's it's this process that human beings go through just to survive, right? And it's hard to define this this idea of survival and of thriving, because it can be looked at in a number of different ways. Where it can be somebody is going to the grocery store to steal food so that they can provide food for their children. Crimes of survival, or somebody acting out in an emotional, mental response because they're emotionally and mentally trying to survive. Um, and it's hard for me, not to be more angry, in more of an angry position, because I feel like the world itself is not looking at individuals as human beings in this regard holistically, realizing that a lot of these issues that we're seeing with human beings out of their fight for survival uh, could be changed and could be prevented, and to your point, could help kids not get into these situations where they're leaning on unhealthy habits or unhealthy situations to feel like they have a place of their own, to feel like they have a family, to feel like um, they have an avenue to survive and to thrive. So this community center, again, separate from the physical location, is the premise of this is to elicit that emotion, that there's a place that they can call their own, where they can be safe, and they can be pointed in a direction that's healthier for not only themselves in the short term, but also for their families that they want to create in the long term. And so I'm hoping that this permeates, long after I'm dead and gone, but uh, really creating a different heartbeat in the community and in kids' lives, where their world is just a healthier place.
Well, let's talk about it, because you are, I don't want to use the term building it in your own image, because that's, sort of a godlike thing, but you're able to craft and mold this thing,
Mhm.
with your input the way you want it. What's going into it that is going to have Doug Baldwin written all over it?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel weird when you ask that question, because I don't want Doug Baldwin to be written
Well, then
all
let me
over it.
ask it a different way. Let's just say, what are we putting into this facility? I mean, you had already touched on some of the things
Mhm.
that will make these kids want to go there and have things to do and have that sense of community, and not just the kids, but you mentioned the families too.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but again, it's just um, people, Maslow's hierarchy of needs at the very core, basic, fundamental of our human needs, that we want to feel loved, right? And from love, everything else can spiral off. And I don't want to be, I don't want to get super emotional or mushy about it, but that's essentially what it comes from. Is, as and I'll speak for myself as a kid and as a teenager, and then as I go into my professional career as a football player, there's a lot of things that revolve around you that make your identity, right? That is not necessarily your identity. Um, and for a long period of time, I've only been recognized as the football player. But there's so much more. There's so many more layers, and I'm a human being under that veil of an entertainer. And there's human elements that need to be nurtured and taken care of. And the again, the premise of this facility is to cater to just that, to recognizing that what your job is isn't necessarily who you are. What your past is doesn't make for your future. Um, that you are an individual trying to survive on this earth just like the rest of us. And there's ways that we can benefit each other and help each other grow and challenge each other, and allow each other to see different perspectives, because then that broadens our horizons and helps us evolve in ways that we never knew that were possible. Um, so yeah, I hope that when people walk into this facility, they don't see Doug Baldwin, they don't see Mayor Dennis Law, they don't see anything other than a place for them to feel safe, where they are genuinely loved and recognized as individuals.
Great. So let's talk a little nuts and bolts with what you can tell me about it. Kids are going to get homework help, tutoring, medical, dental facilities, place to work out, place to play some ball maybe. What kind of things like that are going into it?
All of that, all of that. And,
Wonderful.
um, and we're still in the process of forming the various partnerships and the framework for the programs that we're going to offer. And a lot of it has to come down to us having the conversation with the community. And so we're going to continue that to have their input because that's most important, right? If we're going to serve the community, then we need to know what the community wants. And so a lot of that process is still ongoing.
So you mentioned the partnership with the community, but there are, I'm sure, businesses and other organizations that want to partner up. Who do you have lined up so far?
I'm allowed to say, right? I'm allowed to.
So that's also something we can ask the mayor too, if it's something you have him address to.
Yeah, let's let the mayor answer that one.
Very good. We can do that.
Yeah, let's let him answer that one.
Do you know when we're going to see this thing have the ribbon cutting?
Yeah, so we're planning on breaking ground in February of next year, and hopefully that's groundbreaking, and then hopefully the completion date is scheduled to be somewhere in the middle of 2021.
Oh, that's wonderful. So it won't be long and it'll be ready to go, and teriyaki is just going to be a place for lunch.
Right. Absolutely.
All right, so now I got to know, where's this teriyaki place?
Unfortunately, it's no longer in the Cascade
no.
Shopping Village. But fortunately, the woman who owned it, who ran it, she's done very well for herself. And so she's been able to move her daughter actually goes to UW. And so she's put her shop now in U Village. So she's closer to her daughter and it's a location where she's getting a lot more traffic.
Then a little closer to me too, so then I don't have to come in. Not that I mind coming down to Renton. Renton's a nice place too, but I live all the way up in Linwood, so
Okay.
U Village a lot closer for teriyaki.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for good Asian restaurants of any kind, so that's good. All right, Doug Baldwin, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
And now we're with Renton Mayor Dennis Law, who's going to tell us a little more about the community center. Your Honor, what about this thing are you looking most forward to seeing, and once it's all built and ready to go?
Well, I think that this is a facility that's going to offer a multitude of services for kids and families, from athletics and STEM classes and hopefully art and music classes to healthcare and other things as they come up. As a community center, we'll have plenty of space to be able to bring in counselors, bring in job fairs, different things that would be really beneficial to the young people and their families in that community. So we're really excited about that.
Talk a little bit about the needs, if you would, of that community. You're picking these things because that community has certain needs.
Well, it's an area that has a lot of diversity. It has a high number of low-income families, but it also has many families that just don't have services available up there to them, and amenities such as park and recreations and things of that nature. We annexed this area from King County in 2008, and it just didn't have all the things that a community would hope to have in order to adequately serve your population. And so our ability to build this community center is going to be a life changer for a lot of people.
And you've touched on some of the services. I know one of the ones that always blows my mind is, when communities don't have dental services. I mean, medical services is one thing. Sometimes it's few and far between depending on where you are, but kids that aren't able to go to the dentist.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what'll be nice is it's being built so that we can bring in all kinds of different services as the need comes up or the opportunities come up.
So there's going to be some flexibility. You can shift and change things as it goes.
Yeah, and a lot of the medical services now come with in mobile vehicles, and we'll have a pad where they can hook up, have power, and be able to provide services. Even the blood bank, does that sort of thing in terms of the blood drives. And so, we're looking forward to what it could be done at this location.
How's the response been from the community so far?
It's been fantastic. The reason it's going to happen is because of a very strong partnership between the city, Doug, the school district, and our business community. And they have just really stepped up in a big way. And I've got to recognize this, state of Washington, the legislature, our delegation was able to get $1.5 million earmarked for this project. But the business community has been a huge component to raising this $15 million.
Wow. Okay, so they're really stepping up and making sure you have the money you need to get it done, it sounds like.
We still have a ways to go, but we are just excited where we are. It will be built, and we're moving forward with it.
And I hear we're hoping to have it open maybe as early as 2021.
Well, I think it'll be sooner than that, but it's a big facility, so it's going to probably take a good year to build it.
Very good. Anything else you want to add while I have you?
No, except anybody wants to participate, we'd love to have you as one of our donors.
Well, what do they need to do if they want to join in?
If they go to the city's website, there's a link to the Family First Community Center, and everything's right there.
All right, very good. Mayor Law, thanks for that. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.